started off as something else and ended up with something else. But yeah, pretty happy can you hear me? What a disappointment. Seriously. No, that's not a problem. I was just generally honestly, I haven't heard much from people. Yeah, well, I haven't spoken to too many people, let's put it that way. Alright, let's go.
Hello, good morning and welcome to the Desi Sports Scouts last live stream, and it's a very warm welcome to Prasen. Prasen, I was going to say a very good afternoon to you, but is it a good afternoon?
Hi Bharat, in terms of weather, definitely it is certainly a good afternoon here in Bangalore. I think it's nice and sunny, but yeah, I mean, disappointing results last night. I think Sunrisers completely outplayed RCB. So in terms of the IPL and where RCB were heading, disappointing to say the least. But yeah, I think otherwise it's a good afternoon and a good morning to you.
Thank you. And just to cheer you up slightly, I'm looking at to a very foggy, very frosty, very cold morning here in the beautiful city of Leicester, so hopefully that'll cheer you up, because you're looking into a much more beautiful city than I am at the moment. But yeah, let's get the hurt out of the way. I did catch the end of the game due to work commitments. I can only watch some parts of it. But how is Bengaluru feeling this morning?
Yeah, well, I mean, in terms of the virtual conversations we've had, it seems pretty gloomy, because I think a lot of people were expecting us to at least go all the way to the finals, where it was going to be a tough task against the Mumbai Indians. But credit to SRH, they've been a side which has been consistent right from the start of when Ridhiman Saha entered the side. And Warner, Williamson, the solidity in the middle order, and obviously the batting, the bowling, fantastic. Natarajan, Sandeep Sharma, Rashid. So I think Sunrisers put up a very good performance, and they were thoroughly deserving of that win. RCB, on the other hand, quite a few inconsistencies, especially in the middle order. So all that's been the chatter, but I think the biggest issue that has sort of been plaguing RCB is the lack of a title. And at the helm of all affairs is Virat Kohli. And I think a lot of conversation has been around whether he should continue as captain and whatnot. So it's been a mixed bag of conversations, since yesterday evening's loss. So yeah, I think it's just going to continue until the end of IPL.
Yeah, and I'm going to go through that, because I want to hear your take on some of the. I found it really unusual to focus on Virat, but I'll share my views. But it'll be really more important to get your views. But what I want to do today is be a bit of a therapy session for you, because I know when my team loses. I am in the when Leicester lose a couple of lose a big game, it takes me a couple of days to recover. In a way, it's good. It's the weekend, so it makes it easier, because if you have to go into work, it's harder after a defeat. So I'm here for you, brother, and we can talk it out. And hopefully, after this session, you'll feel a little bit better. But in terms of, let's start at the beginning, because Yeah, I think we both agreed, and we had a small chat yesterday as well, that Sunrisers deserved the win. But let's
Yeah.
go back to the start and the four changes RCB made at the start. What did you think about the team changes and bringing in Aaron Finch and then obviously Virat choosing to open?
I think it was definitely a move to actually shield Finch from the swinging ball, because obviously Finch wasn't exactly comfortable with the moving ball, and that's why he was benched for the few matches that Felipe played. But Felipe himself didn't bring much to the table in terms of runs. He did score a now 30, but it didn't look like he was very comfortable. And RCB obviously banked on that experience of Aaron Finch and played him at number 3. But Kohli's had so much of success at the top, in T20, and I think he was just undone by a brilliant ball from Jason Holder, who really used all of the bounce and purchase that he gets off the wicket. But I think the other changes as well, Saini obviously had to come into the side because he was the premium lead pacer before Morris came into the side. And with Morris out as well, I think they sort of judged the Abu Dhabi surface pretty well, because, I mean, we saw how, Zampa and Chahal bowled in unison, and they sort of really brought the match more towards RCB's favor towards the end overs before Williamson hit those two sixes, one each of Chahal and Washington Sundar. But otherwise, I think the four changes were pretty much those. Two of them were in respect to what the pitch was to offer, and one was Aaron Finch coming to the side for that experience. So, as for Kohli opening, I think he wanted to try something different and shield Finch from that moving ball. But unfortunately, it didn't work out, and you just probably say it's one of those days and leave it at that.
Yeah, I mean, we know what a incredible batsman he is. So yeah, it's one of those incredible balls that got him out, and it can happen in any game, let alone T20. But in terms of the going into the game, your boys had a couple of back-to-back defeats. But we mentioned in the last show that T20 being the format it is, form doesn't really matter. It's what happens on the day, and the start you had, I think, really put you on the back foot. I mean, I know you've been relying on Devdutt to give you that start, but he's not had the partner to go with him most of the time, and then you've had to rely on AB again to get that score. So it's the inconsistency in the top order, I think, that's cost you certainly yesterday. But would you generally say throughout the tournament that's where the weak link has been in terms of the batting?
Absolutely, I think you're bang on in terms of that, because look, I think even in terms of Padikkal, he's been absolutely phenomenal. For a debut season, for him to score 450 runs plus. I'm not sure of the exact figure he got. I'll have to look at that again. But I think the way he approached the batting was fantastic, and you rightly mentioned that he really didn't have a partner, and that sort of needed him to play out a majority of the deliveries. And I'm a firm believer in the fact that average means nothing if not for strike rate in T20 cricket. We've seen so many times that openers score in bulk of 500 runs, 550 runs, but that really doesn't take the side anywhere, because the scoring rate's not there. And I think RCB's biggest issue this season was the fact that they didn't have anyone to bank on for the finishing role. And that's why Virat Kohli and AB de Villiers had to sort of be a little steady in the middle overs and take the game all the way until the end, wherein they could then explode. If you look at the Kingsland Punjab, for example, they had Chris Gayle in their side. And when he came into the side, despite the fact that Mayank Agarwal was out injured, they still persisted with Mandeep Singh at the top of the order. And that was only for the fact that they wanted that insurance in the middle order. They knew that Chris Gayle was going to give them knocks. Nicholas Pooran was in form. For RCB, it was a similar case, but except the only fact is no one produced an innings like Deepak Hooda did. No one gave RCB that 60 runs that Deepak Hooda did. So I think it was a matter of just the top four. And even if you look at it in hindsight, it was all about Kohli, AB de Villiers and Padikkal. There was literally no one else who scored runs for RCB. And despite the experience that Finch has brought to the four, but Finch has never been someone who's excelled in the IPL, and he clearly had his struggles all through the tournament, and Felipe as well. I think that early impetus was not there in the RCB, in any of the RCB matches, barring that one match I think against Mumbai Indians. So that was the whole issue. They weren't able to score at a quick rate and put pressure on the opposition. And I think that certainly was their undoing, apart from the fact that they weren't quality resources to bank on after AB de Villiers and obviously before him Virat Kohli.
Yeah, and I was going to I mean, when we did the previous show, you were very confident RCB would be getting into the playoffs, and you got that right. But then you mentioned prior to this that you were already looking forward to the final against the Mumbai Indians, ignoring my boys. So I let that one go because fair
I was
enough.
just being heavily optimistic. I'll be very honest with you, because I mean, I even we did a show for Sportskera, and there I mentioned that SRH are favorites because they definitely were. I was just being optimistic and wanted to pull your leg in that sense. So
No, I did. I was going to let it go, but then I thought I'm not doing my boys the favour they deserve. We need to speak up for the Capitals. But there was a lot of expectations this year. I think that's fair. But when you looked at the squad at the start of the tournament, realistically, I mean, nobody knows about form, and like I said, only 3 players in the batting order. I don't think there was any issues with your bowling. Would you agree with that? It's the batting that cost you maybe getting into the final.
yeah, look, I think at any point in time, RCB's playing 11 had 6 bowling options, that is including Shivam Dubey, and he wasn't even used that much in the tournament. So I think in a way, Washington Sundar and Chahal complemented each other really well, which I mean, basically the spin department was taken care of. And as for the Pacers, they tried Umesh Yadav up front. He didn't work out. They brought in Siraj. He was phenomenal against, the Kolkata Knight Riders, and he did have his moments. Navdeep Saini, I think he picked up just 6 wickets in 13 matches, and he was a little inconsistent, but then again, he delivered some really, really good overs, especially that super over against the Mumbai Indians. So I think the bowling wasn't too much of an issue. Obviously, Chris Morris's addition also worked very well in RCB's favor, and he really changed the dynamics of the bowling unit altogether. So I think at the end of it, if you look at it, as you rightly mentioned, I think it was all about the batting. If you actually take a deep look into it, in my opinion, it's just that Devdutt Padikkal's form at the top of the order and the amount of runs that he got sort of camouflage for the fact that the middle order was pretty much non-existent. You did have names like Gurkirat Singh Mann, Shivam Dubey, Washington Sundar also got to bat quite a bit. But then, even if you look at it, it was only all about the top 4, and it was actually the 3 among the top 4 who scored runs: Kohli, Padikkal, and de Villiers. And there's literally a huge gap between the 4th highest run scorer, and the 3rd highest run scorer. So I think that was the whole issue, that RCB had never, we never had a chance to go big at the start, which didn't help in the middle orders, and it certainly didn't help towards the end. So the batting was definitely the issue.
Yeah, I agree with that. And it's another year without getting into the final, or even challenging for the trophy. And we talked about this in previous shows, that there's not a big turnaround. We expect the next tournament to be on schedule in April. But when you look at this tournament and looking forward to next year, I mean, there was quite a few positives, especially obviously Devdutt, Washington, Mohammad Siraj. We know Virat, what he can do, so he'll be there next year. But then after that, and Chahal obviously, and we said there's no issues with the bowling. I think it's a really good unit. But looking forward to next year and the positives that you take from this year in terms of RCB, what are your views on that?
Yeah, I think Devdutt Padikkal's form is certainly a big plus, because the youngster really took the opportunity with both hands and sort of got RCB off to great starts with 30s and 40s, and obviously scored 50s as well. So I think he looked in great form, and for the youngster to do well in his debut season against some quality opposition is certainly a positive. And he'll form a big part of RCB's top 3 if, AB de Villiers is still there, and I'm assuming Kohli will be there. So in the top 3, to have someone young like him, he'll certainly develop with the team, and he can only get better. And as for the bowling, I think Washington Sundar's ability to bowl in the power play and sort of stem the run flow early on was certainly a positive sign. And along with him, Yuzvendra Chahal, obviously the top wicket taker for us this season. So I think these 2 are the major positives. And obviously Chris Morris's addition, although I'm not too sure if they'll retain him next season, no one really knows what the scene is with the mega auction or what they're going to do. But I think these are the 2 biggest positives: Chahal's form, Saini's form, Sundar's form, and obviously Devdutt Padikkal. So I think we have quite a few positives, and we managed to win tight matches. But at the end of it, the batting was still a letdown, and that's something that they'll need to address next year.
Hopefully that therapy session has helped a little bit, but we have to do justice to the Sunrisers. And like you said on your show, you said that they were favourites pre-game. I think if I'm quoting you right. But they're not the most glamorous side. They're not the Bollywood team that you associate with the Indians and Kolkata, and even because of Virat, RCB. But again, they made it into the playoffs. I wasn't aware of that, but obviously everybody back home who's into cricket was aware that they make the playoffs every year. You called it again this year. But that was a really good performance. I mean, they really laid the foundation, and I want to give you credit yet again. You mentioned this player last time in our show, Jason Holder. He really put in an all-round performance.
Yeah, look, I think Jason Holder, I'll still say it, is one of the most underrated all-rounders in world cricket currently. He's done it in the Test format. He's done it in the T20 format. You don't expect him to take so many wickets. Yesterday he took 3 wickets, and he really broke the backbone of the RCB batting unit. It's just that extra bounce that he gets off the surface, and he sort of sticks to his line and length. Pretty much like a McGrath sort of a mold of bowler is what Jason Holder is. And with the bat, look, he's so effortless, and it's beautiful to watch him bat, and he definitely played a huge role. But speaking about Sunrisers, you rightly mentioned that they aren't exactly the glamorous sort of beat-down sort of team that is in the IPL, and that's what's the beauty about the Sunrisers is that they really bank on talent and on slightly lesser known names, and they back them to play their role. RCB, on the other hand, they have players who are very specific and can't really float around in the batting order, and that's really something that's hurt them. Without for example, if you see, they played Warner at 5 in a game in which Kane Williamson had to open, and he really excelled at that. They played Manish Pandey at 3. They played Priyam Garg at 4. They were okay to play Ridhiman Saha and even bench Johnny Best. So they've taken so many bold calls. They've got players who are willing to come in and grab the opportunities. RCB, on the other hand, have been very dependent on a set of star players, and that's really stagnated the way the team flows. So I think SRH have done a phenomenal job in picking the players who will step up and deliver, and have really gelled well as a team. And all the credit goes to David Warner, really, because for a foreign captain to come into a team wherein it's all about the Indian talent, and but he's the example of a champion cricketer. Someone who's also won the IPL. He scored a truckload of runs, so I think he's probably one of the greatest IPL players to have graced the whole tournament.
Yeah, and I totally agree with that. He leads from the front, and I haven't forgotten the issue about Virat, and I'm going to come back to that at the end. But I wanted to give full credit to Sunrisers and their performance, and like you said, led brilliantly by David Warner. He brings a lot of passion to the game. But I also wanted to highlight the fact that you singled out Jason Holder last time in terms of being an underrated player, and he showcased his talent yesterday with the bat and ball. But the other players, Sandeep Sharma, another player that is in the background, but he produces. We know about Rashid Khan, but then Manish Pandey and Priyam Garg, they've all produced when it mattered. So it's a very, very good unit that's going to go into the next, and we'll talk about it later on. Very confident into it's a semi-final, isn't it, against the Capitals?
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. I think the players are pretty much, in a safe space. They know for a fact that they'll be back to come good. And the best part about the Sunrisers is that they haven't made unnecessary changes. They've probably made condition-specific changes. And look, I mean, in a team which boasts of names like Rashid Khan, David Warner, Kane Williamson, it's always good to see the lesser known names like, Tangarasu Natarajan, Shahbaz Nadeem got a man of the match performance against Mumbai. Sandeep Sharma got a man of the match performance against RCB. So all of their performances have flown under the radar, but they keep performing. They come to the fore, they take the opportunity, and they do really well. So I think SRH are a fantastically well-rounded team in that sense. And all the players are really, really looking forward to opportunities. And whenever it presents itself, they're ready to take it. So SRH are looking fantastic. I think among SRH and DC, I feel Sunrisers can definitely give Mumbai Indians a run for their money. And I'm really hoping to see Sunrisers make the final, and I can see that.
Come on, Prasen. Oh, come on. I supported your team yesterday, and already you've shown your
No, no, I was
cards.
just kidding.
And oh my goodness. Okay, folks, we know where Prasan stands on this one. So okay, I'm going to let this is the second time you've ignored the Capitals in what is it, 20
No, I
minutes or
mean,
so.
I honestly want to get your opinion on this because I have said it, but are you concerned about the way the Delhi Capitals batting unit is shaping up? Because literally no one is standing up and performing, and
No,
it's just been a very
no, I'm very
random.
confident, and I'll tell you why when we talk about we preview the game tomorrow. But I'm just getting over the fact of you made another comment about the Capitals not even being considered to get into the final. But I just wanted the other thing about Hyderabad and the Indian players, because when you look at the other teams, they've all got big name Indian players, whether it's young talent or the stars from our national team. Whereas Hyderabad, would you agree that it's the foreign internationals that are the biggest stars, and there's not a big name Indian player?
Yeah,
And that's
absolutely.
unique.
I think that's been SRH's philosophy for a long time to back them and throw them in young. That's been something that's worked well for the Mumbai Indians as well. They unearthed Hardik Pandya, Krunal Pandya, Jasprit Bumrah, Surya Kumar Yadav, Ishan Kishan, and they've all stuck with the team for a long time. And Sunrisers have done the same thing. They've picked lesser known names from the Indian circuit, but proven performers in the domestic circuit. Again, they've got Sandeep Sharma, Nadeem, Siddharth Kaul, Thangarasu Natarajan's a fantastic pick for them. So I mean, they've invested their money in the right places, and unfortunately, that's not been the case with RCB, where they've splurged money on one or two players. And I think SRH have done a fantastic job of having good backup players, and that's the most important part. Because if a Khalil Ahmed sits out, they've got Natarajan. If a Sandeep Sharma sits out, they've got Siddharth Kaul. So they have so many backups. If Priyamgar sits out, they have Abdul Samad. They have a whole bunch of backups, and that's the best part about the team, and that's why they're so successful. And I think it's definitely going to be a very, very interesting clash between Sunrisers and Delhi. Delhi definitely have a fantastic team, there's no doubt about it, but it's just, I think the little inconsistencies in their performance is probably going to be a little bit of a problem for them heading into that crucial match.
Yeah, and but the other thing I wanted to make a point about is whether the Indian players you mentioned, for Sunrisers, are well known in the domestic circuit, but a lot of these for me, and obviously living here and not being you're the expert here, but they're not, they don't seem to be close to being considered for the national team, and I think they're all performing just to showcase their talents, and they're bringing, like I said, some of these players. But that's from my point of view are not well known from my side. But I think it's a unique point about the Sunrisers that the Indian element is not the star-studded ones that pretty much every other team has. But it's been incredible the way they've performed and always continue to perform. And I think in terms of getting to the playoffs, they're on par with the Glamour Boys of Mumbai, always getting there. And it's a brilliant performance yesterday. I think you did have a shout in the middle when your bowlers brought you back in, but I think the end result was never in doubt. But the other thing that's been started talking about, and you mentioned it at the start of the show, was the captaincy of Virat. And I was really surprised when I read the comments, and I know Gautam Gambhir, I've read something that he's made comments about Virat's captaincy. What are your views in terms of how he's done, not only this year, but leading the challengers? Because he has a lot of influence in terms of squad selection and picks, and I'm sure he has a say in the auction as well. Where are you on Virat?
Look, I think in terms of an RCB fan's perspective, I'm definitely not happy with the way the team's progressing. Because, look, I'll be honest. I mean, in an auction, you have only a limited purse of money, and if you're very heavily dependent on buying one player, that's certainly not going to help your cause. You need to be picking different players. You need to invest, right? And obviously, I'm no expert to say this, but in terms of his captaincy, I think. I sort of agree with what Gautam Gambhir has had to say that you can't be someone who's leading the Indian side and someone who's been the captain of a team for 8 years and still you don't have an IPL title. It's certainly something which is very surprising. And I think all of it stems from the fact that Virat Kohli is probably a little more over the top aggressive captain. In T20 cricket, you have to be aggressive, but you have to understand that sometimes things don't go your way, and you can't expect a wicket in every ball that your bowler bowls, or you can't expect a four or a six every time your batsman plays a delivery. And that's probably the type of captain that Virat is. And that aggressiveness is something that is definitely a positive by all means, but if at times when you make emotions on the field. Yesterday we saw Devdutt Padikkal, that particular drop that of Kane Williamson. It probably changed the whole match definitely, but the reaction that the drop elicited, I think, was certainly that it probably would have put Devdutt's spirits down, because he did try. It wasn't like he dropped a dolly, but that's what it is. I think probably. Again, it comes down to the fact that you need to have a good team, and RCB didn't have a good team this season. Obviously, Chris Morris coming to the side sort of changed the dynamics of the bowling unit, and the bowling unit was fine, but again, it was all about the batting unit. And if we consider the fact that probably Devdutt Padikkal hadn't scored runs, then it was again all about Devi and Kohli. And the fact that Padikkal scored runs really camouflaged the inefficiency of that middle order. So they need to build a good team, and for them to build a good team, you need to back good talent. You can't just pick an Australian captain and tell him that your position in the team secure. You're not going to be dropped. I think a lot of people in this team are playing given that their spot in the side is secure, and that really can't be the case.
So the big question: should he stay as captain? And do you think this talk? I don't think so, and I'll give you my views on Virat as well. But do you think this talk might affect whether he's captain the national T20 team? And do you think he should continue to be captain of RCB?
I'll be very honest here. I think he's definitely a fantastic batsman, and he's a fantastic player. And I don't think RCB have anyone who can captain right now. RCB don't have a captain who can succeed Virat Kohli. AB de Villiers is probably on the wrong side of his 30s, so he's certainly not someone who's going to take up captaincy duties. I think he's enjoying his cricket, and the fact that he took up the gloves this season, he should be given the man of the tournament just for that. He was so selfless. He's not even played a game in so many. Obviously, he did play the 3TC before he came into the IPL, but I don't think right now, given the fact that Kohli is leading the Indian team, and he's obviously Indian cricket's biggest commodity, he definitely won't be dropped from captaincy. I think it needs to start off with them needing to invest in the right places and bring in the right players, because without good players, a team is nothing. And however good a captain might be, he can't individually win your matches. And so I think there's no one who can succeed Kohli. Obviously, probably the closest person there is Chahal, but he isn't exactly captaincy material. He hasn't led any side in the past, and again, he's also entering into his 30s. So RCB need to invest in someone young, and that person probably is Padikkal, but obviously he just played his debut season. He's 3 or 4 years away from even coming close to captaincy. So the 2021 auction, I feel, is going to be really big for two teams, RCB and CSK, because they both need to find a captain, and they need to do it really, really fast.
Oh, did you say they both need to find a captain? So you think RCB need to change?
No, I'm saying, if Kohli probably doesn't give us a title in the next 1 or 2 years, then they definitely need to groom someone for that position. Because if you consider the case of the Rajasthan Royals, they've got Sanju Samson.
Yeah.
If you see KKR, they've got Shubman Gill. Kings XI Punjab already have Rahul. They probably have Mandeep Singh waiting in the wings. He's captain Punjab before. If you look at any other team, Delhi Capitals, they've got a whole bunch of youngsters. Shreyas Iyer is there. He's just 25, I think. And he's going to be there for the next 5-6 years, so he's not going anywhere. So I think RCB and CSK are the only two teams. Dhoni is obviously going to play the next season. He told us that he's not going anywhere, but that's probably only one season. And the indifference between Raina and CSK, no one knows where that's going. So I don't think he's going to be made captain anytime soon. So I think RCB and CSK definitely need to sort out their leadership group, and RCB certainly need to look for that sort of inspiration and that sort of person who they can groom to take over after Virat Kohli.
Yeah, I'll give you my views on Virat for what it's worth. I think it's been unfair, the criticism he's had. When you look at the batting, he scored over 400 runs. Obviously, you will know the nuances about some of his fielding decisions or bowling selections. and maybe it's some of the team selection. So you can judge him on that, where I'm not good, clever enough or wise enough or expert enough to comment on that. But just generally in the big picture, I think the fact that you said a captain is only as good as his team, I think that's the big point. And everybody keeps mentioning Rohit Sharma should take over from Virat. No, Rohit Sharma's got a very, very good team behind him. And like we said, Rohit's not performed when he's come back. All right, he might be playing with an injury, and we'll talk about that as well. But I think Virat, I like his aggressiveness. I know you said that he's a little bit too aggressive, but I like that in those in those players. And I think I mentioned that with Ishan Kishan as well. Just digressing slightly, the younger players who have that. Mentality of taking a little bit of a chance, because T20 is one of those games where it's on a knife edge. Little things can change, little things that might not work will cost you the game. But I like that aspect of Virat. I think he leads from the front in terms of his passion. We've said about his batting. Even he might have be classed as not a poor season, but it wasn't an incredible season, but he still scored over 400 runs. So I think all this talk of even replacing him for the next couple of years, I don't agree with. I think he's a brilliant player, obviously. That's stating the obvious, but you're only as good as what you've got behind you.
If I may, I'm so sorry, but if I may, I just sort of wanted to get your opinion as well on the same topic. Look, Virat Kohli obviously is the over the top sort of an aggressive captain, but you've watched Ian Morgan in close quarters, and he obviously led England to the World Cup victory. But if you were to probably put Virat Kohli as the captain of the England team, would he have led them to the World Cup title, considering the firepower that was there? And the fact that he's such a passionate captain, would that have brought out that aggressiveness in the England players? Would that have sort of led them to wanting to win more, or would that have put pressure on their players?
I think it's difficult, isn't it? Because Ian is not. He is aggressive, He is very passionate. He might not come across in the same way as Virat, but don't forget, in England, cricketers are not as big as they are in India, and obviously that influences what happens outside. Slightly influences the way you are as a captain as well. Whereas here, I think the comparison would be with some of the football stars that we have, who are. Big characters and big leaders, but I think he's a thinking man. But then you can say about Kane Williamson, the complete opposite. And a lot of people think he is one of the best captains in the world. But given the choice, and not just about his batting, but just the passion and the way he leads, and I think he does get that commitment from the players. Virat, I'm talking about here. In terms, people will run through brick walls for him. That's the feeling I have. And I agree. Ian is an incredible captain, but let's not forget the last over in the World Cup. That could have gone either way. And then what we would have said, Kane Williamson, Virat should be more like Kane Williamson? I don't think so. They are top captains, let's not face it. All I'm saying is, for our national team, for RCB, stick with Virat. And I think just have a similar outlook to MS in terms of, I agree with you, they need to start planning for the next, I'm not saying 10 years, I think that's too long for the IPL, what MS said. But at least start planning for the next 2-3 years in terms of the auction and the players. And like I said, I think just to cheer you up even more, I think with Washington, Mohammad Siraj, Virat, they're the core is there, and obviously Chahal, and we've said the bowling is alright. So a bit of hope for you for next year, I think. But main point I want to make is, in a long-winded way, stick with Virat, nationally and with RCB.
Yep. Yeah, definitely. I think I certainly agree with you that we definitely need to stick with him. But the only thing is that he needs to have players along with him, and right now what's happening is the youngsters are probably afraid of losing their spot in the side. They're trying to do different things, and there just needs to be someone who brings that team together apart from Kohli and De Villiers. And unfortunately, there's no one in the side right now, and for that, the 2021 auction is going to be very important for RCB.
Right, that's enough of RCB talk for this year. We might talk about it at the end of the season, but hopefully that helped, and it'll improve your weekend. having gone through that little therapy session. I'm going to have a bit of a therapy session from you now, because obviously I don't want to talk too much about the first qualifier. I think when a team scores 200 batting up front, it just seems like, and especially the start the Capitals had, and the game was over after the first 3-4 overs. I know Stonis made a bit of a game of it, but it just shows, even without Rohit performing, that unit, Mumbai Indians unit, is awesome.
Yeah, well, Rohit and Pollard both got out for ducks, didn't they? And they still managed to get 200 on the board. And yeah, as you rightly said, they look absolutely unstoppable. I don't think the Mumbai Indians are going to be beaten this season in the final if you really look at it in that.
I'm going to challenge you on that one as well. Come on, Prasen. Come on. This is strike 3 for you now.
I really don't want them to win because they won too much. But if you look at it in terms of squads, I don't think there's a team which is better served than the Mumbai Indians, because literally there's everyone who stepped up and performed. There isn't a single player in that team, probably apart from Rahul Chahar to an extent, who hasn't performed. And I mean, I'm just honestly very scared of the fact that they're going to win their 5th title, and the CSK are literally like going to be 2 titles behind. I mean, given the rivalry between RCB and CSK, it's hard to say that, but I really, really don't want the Mumbai Indians to win, just for the fact that we need to have more competition in the IPL. But at this stage, and considering the way the squads are shaping up, among the 3, I think Mumbai Indians are miles ahead in terms of their overall balance. And
and they had that one blip last weekend. And the other thing I'm hoping that the BCCI do is select Surya Kumar, because I think since that squad selection, he's out to prove a point. That was another brilliant batting performance by him, by Ishan. Hardik came in and did what Hardik does. De Kock having an incredible IPL season. And then we know there's no chinks in the bowling with Bumrah. Incredible start with Trent Boult. They just finished the game, like I said, in the first few overs. But I'm going to have a few glimmers of hope. But obviously with my boys, they've got to beat the Sunrisers tomorrow. So I need you to help me out and say, how can we beat the Sunrisers, having seen your team lose to the Sunrisers yesterday?
I think they'll just have to take a leaf out of the way they played, RCB, and both Shikhar Dhawan and Ajinkya Rahane were fantastic. I think the side has really, really good names, and in terms of an overall balance, again, the Delhi Capitals squad is miles ahead when you compare it to the Sunrisers Hyderabad, because SRH at the end of it have had individual performances taking them through. Delhi Capitals, I think they really need to get Prithvi Shaw. They need to sit him down and tell him that, you know what, you can't just be playing these flashy shots. You can't be not moving your feet, and you can't get out within 5 to 6 runs every single game. You need to score for us. And I think when the occasion asks for it, these youngsters are always stepping up. Rishabh Pant needs to find a way to get out of that identity crisis. And I think he's a match winner. He's honestly, I love the way Rishabh Pant plays, but for some reason he's looked off color this season. But again, we're talking about a clash wherein the loser will be knocked out of the competition. So all these players know match pressure situations, and I really, really want to see the Delhi Capitals winning this, purely because I want to see a new champion, and the Delhi Capitals have probably the best squad that they've had over the last so many years. So I think that the bowling unit is phenomenal, with Rabada, Nokia, Ashwin has been fantastic, Akshar Patel has been very economical. So I think they have all the resources to win the match. They just need their batting to come good. I really feel if the Delhi Capitals manage to win the toss and chase, it's definitely going to give them a better chance of winning the match, because then the batsmen they'll know what they need to do, and they don't necessarily need to go hammer and tong from the first ball.
You've given me a bit of hope there, and the fact that you want the Capitals win, I'll take one of the strikes off.
There's no doubt about it. I certainly want the Delhi Capitals to win this IPL, 100%.
But if you go back to the group stage, and there are 2 very comfortable wins for the Sunrisers, do you think that will have, because they were in Abu Dhabi and Dubai, very, very comfortable wins, do you think and we've said before, T20 is about what happens on the day. But will that be playing in the back of the minds of some of the Hyderabad players, being going really confident into the game, or the Capitals players thinking, we took a beating in the last game against these boys?
I think, as you rightly mentioned, T20 cricket is all about what happens on the day. Past results are in the past, and the knockouts are a whole different ball game altogether. You really can't rest on your past laurels and say, look, we've beaten the Delhi Capitals. They're a side who's scared of us. There's nothing like that. Look, there's personal change on both ends, and they need to play every single game on the way they need to go about it. They need to put their best foot forward, and past results mean nothing really, because the Delhi Capitals are a squad full of experience. They've got some very, very big names in there. Sunrisers as well, they've got some match winners, and I think it's going to be a fantastic clash. It's definitely going to be a lot more interesting than what happened yesterday, because I think in a way RCB were outplayed, and although they did come back towards the later half of the second innings, it was still, as you mentioned, the writing was pretty much on the wall. So it's going to be a very, very good clash, and past results really mean nothing. We saw Rashid Khan went wicketless against RCB, which was pretty surprising considering how he had done in the previous game. So anything can happen, and Delhi really need their batsmen to come good, and I'm really hoping for Delhi to win.
Well, absolutely, and I'll give you my reasons for thinking that we will do it, especially tomorrow. I'm not sure about Tuesday, but we can talk about Tuesday when the game comes around, and we'll see who's there. But we know that you mentioned the really, really good bowling unit, so there's no issues there. And what gives me hope is that with the likes of Shreyas Iyer, Shekhar Dhawan, Prithvi Shaw, you mentioned Rishabh Pant, one of these players, they can't all again have a bad day, like they did against Mumbai Indians. I think they've all got it in them that they could have an incredible innings. They've all got it in them to have well, we know Shekhar Dhawan scored 2 centuries, so they're all extremely talented players that on their day they can perform, and it only takes one of these players with the support of the surrounding cast to put up a score. And I think with the bowling attack, you mentioned Rashid Khan, but I think with the bowling attack that Hyderabad has got, it's not the best, and we've said this before. I think that's where the game will be won and lost, and it's not about Hyderabad's batting, because that's been inconsistent. We know that as well, and we know how good Delhi's bowling is. So I'm going into this game quietly confident. I think they've had some defeats on the trot, but the talent in the bowling unit, in the batting unit, is there to turn it around in the T20 game. So I'm going into that confident that these players are good enough to put on a performance tomorrow when it's a make or break game. So I'm going in there confident. I don't think the games in the group stages will matter. They've had a couple of days rest. They took a beating against the Indians, let's not forget that. But I think there's enough there to beat Hyderabad, despite what we said about Hyderabad and the way they played against your boys yesterday. So fingers crossed, because you need a bit of luck in T20 games, and hopefully we'll see the Capitals win tomorrow. So we'll both be supporting them. Yes, absolutely. The other thing and we talked about, and just before we finish, I wanted your comments on the Women's T20 Challenge. I know the first game was a bit of a non-event. I think that's down to what we said, they're only getting 3 games, let's face it, or 2 games in the group stage before the final, and not much preparation time. But what have you made of the tournament so far? I know there's a big game today, but in terms of how it's been viewed in India and the coverage and the games you've seen, what can you tell us?
Well, I think the Women's T20 Challenge sort of got into the spotlight for the wrong reasons in the last match, with Velocity bowled out for just 47 in the last game that they played against the Trailblazers. So, I really feel it's a really, for the lack of better words, it's pretty much like a filler tournament that they're doing. We spoke about it earlier that they should have probably invested more money and time into it. They're just playing 3 matches, and it just seems like it's like a forced tournament, so to say, which has sort of been forced into these empty days between the playoffs. So, but then again, there hasn't been much viewership at all. No one's really talking about it. But India are touring Sri Lanka and then England, and I think some other countries coming here. So I'm just hoping that women's cricket is elevated to a different level. Definitely, this women's T20 challenge is doing nothing to promote that. There aren't enough players playing, because the women's Big Bash League is also parallelly happening in Australia. So many big names are missing out, and I think unfortunately it's just at a stage wherein people aren't really focused on it whatsoever. People are pretty much considering today to be a break day, despite the fact that there is a women's T20 challenge match happening.
Game.
So it's a very crucial game. Absolutely, Supernovas have to win. If they lose, they're out of the tournament. So it's definitely a crucial game. People don't really know about it, and it's really a sad state of affairs, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, and we said this in our last show that the BCCI are not doing justice, just like other federations. Let's not just single out BCCI. Other sports federations in terms of women's sport in India, they'll be happy to jump on the bandwagon if we win tournaments and bring laurels to the country, but they're not willing to put the time and effort and money and investment to showcase the talent and bring the talent through. But don't get me started on that, because I'm very passionate about the lack of support for women's sport in India. But I think they really need to have a look at it, and we said this last year. I talk about this when we have football shows around women in football as well. The lack of support, the lack of investment, and just ticking a box to have a national championship, and they've done the same here. But at least a little bit of highlight is coming at for the young women that they are playing and playing in the UAE. So looking forward to the game. I actually be able to watch it today. I'm not at work, so looking forward to that game. Hopefully it'll be a good game, unlike the first one, which was, like I said, there's reasons for that being such a low scoring game and finishing in 7 overs, but hopefully we'll get a good game today. Looking forward to the game tomorrow. I'm not nervous, I'm confident going into it, and we'll hopefully be talking about the Capitals versus the Indians and how they can beat the Indians. But at the moment, I have to agree with you, it's looking like another title for the Glamour Boys. How are you planning to spend all this free time that you're not now going to have, with no back-to-back games on weekends, not cricket every day now? Is this a break you need, or you'll be able to fill your time with the upcoming Australian series?
Yeah, well, I think it's a good break before the Australian series comes up. Obviously some little more time with family, get to spend time with myself, do a couple of things that I like. But I think we're all in this particular sphere working because of our love for the sport, and it never stops giving. So it's great that we've got more action coming up. We've got a host of T10 tournaments. We've got India-Australia tour. We've got the Big Bash League starting. England's playing South Africa. Pakistan's playing Zimbabwe. So it's never going to stop, and we absolutely love it. I absolutely love it. But yeah, the double headers were a little strain on me, but we got through it, and it was fantastic. And I can't thank everyone enough who's really helped me get here, and especially you for having me on the show and getting me to talk about the sport and enjoying these conversations. So
and long may they continue. But I just wanted to end by saying to our viewers, please share your comments, because I love this new look Prasen has got. That I left it right to the end, but I'm loving the new look. And please, everybody, share your thoughts on Twitter and on the comments in the live stream as to what you think, if you agree with me, because it's awesome, really, really good. But Prasen, fantastic, my friend. Really great talking to you, and I'm sure we'll be speaking to you very soon on another live stream. Enjoy the rest of your day, weekend, and stay safe, my friend.
Thank you so much. Thanks again for having me. Always lovely to chat with you. So you too, enjoy your weekend, and we'll talk soon. Thank you so much.
Take care.